The Ozone Freeride 2 is Ozone Paramotor's most advanced freestyle paramotor wing. This is not a wing for new pilots. This is a wing for the kind of guy that wants to push every limit. This is a balls to the wall, all in, fly it like you stole it kind of wing. And let me tell you, it is freaking amazing. Let's talk about launching. There are 4 things that you want to consider when you're looking at how a paramotor / paraglider launches. Number 1 is the inflation. Number 2 is, does it like to stay above your head? Number 3, does it have the tendency to stall or spin when you apply brakes? And number 4, how easily, quickly, and at what speed does it produce lift? Let's look at the Freeride 2. The Freeride 2 is on the very easy scale of inflation. I would argue, having experienced all Ozone wings, that it's probably the easiest launching or easiest inflating Ozone wing they have. When I mean that it's super easy, I mean you literally could walk in no wind and it would inflate above your head. You just breathe on it. You just look at it. You don't even have to think about inflating that wing. When there is no wind, just simply walk and it will still inflate and come above your head. Second thing, how well does it stay above your head? Once it comes up there, it doesn't really want to leave. The thing that I've always found with Ozone wings, specifically this Freeride 2, is that they just have this strong desire to want to fly. You just barely walk forward, it inflates above your head. Stand there for a second, it stays above your head. Consider hitting the throttle. Think about hitting the throttle. Take a couple steps, then hit the throttle. It's still above your head. They just want to fly. No matter what, they just want to fly. Now, the next thing is, does it have the tendency to stall or spin when you apply brakes? And the answer is no. You can get deep into the brakes quickly and hold those brakes for a long time. And it does not want to stall or spin. It is so freaking easy to launch. Next thing is, how easy does it produce lift? How quickly does it produce lift? And I'll be honest with you, I'm 180 pounds. I'm 115 kg all the way up. And I have no problem launching a 16 meter in no wind at 4,500 feet. Think about that. 16 meter at 4,500 feet. It is literally effortless. I don't have to think about launching this wing. The inflation is easy. It wants to just stay above your head and continue to fly. It does not have the tendency to stall or spin. In fact, I don't think I have stalled or spun it on launch. And it produces lift quickly. Yes, I'm launching a 16 meter at 180 pounds before the paramotor, and it is stupid easy. You start running 3 steps later and it produces lift. Boom. Hit the throttle, already getting lifted off the ground. Just continue running a few steps and you're in the air. I'm going to go as far as saying that I think... Let's talk about landing an Ozone Freeride 2. Did somebody say swoops? This wing is probably one of the most fun wings I have ever flown in terms of landing. Like, it is one of the most fun landing wings ever. It has massive swoops, insanely deep brake range, and it doesn't just stall out of the sky. So let's talk about what makes a good landing wing. Number 1, how slow do you land? Number 2, how soft do you set down? And number 3, how does the wing respond as soon as you've touched the ground? So let's look at the Ozone Freeride 2. When you come barreling in at 100 miles an hour in a swoop, okay, maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but when you come dive bombing the ground in a beautiful swoop, at the very end, when you set down, you're walking. Like, yeah, you could be dragging your foot at 30 miles an hour through the swoop, but by the time you finish the flare, you're just taking steps. You're not running. No. You're walking, as in it sets you down slow enough to just take a step in no wind. Yes, it sets you down so slow. Then let's talk about how soft you land. Did you even notice that you were landing? No, you were already on the ground. It's like you just took a step. It sets you down as soft as a freaking feather. You don't even notice you were in the air. It's like you were just taking a walk. Let's talk about the third thing, and maybe my favorite part about landing the Ozone Freeride 2, and that is how the wing responds after you land. Some wings, when you come in and land, you get all the way into that brake range, blah, 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 you're setting it down, and boom, it whip stalls behind you. Not the Freeride 2. The thing that I've noticed with a lot of Ozone wings and this Freeride 2 is that it just doesn't ever want to stop. Like I mentioned this during the launching part, and that is that they just want to fly. All Ozone wings just want you to fly and have a dang good time. And the same applies when you land. You come in, you stuff all those brakes, you're setting it down, you're doing your thing. It's still there. It's still flying. You're still holding full flare. You're in no wind. It's still above your head. You turn around, you set it down as soft as a feather. Did you notice that it was no wind? Did you notice that the wing was still flying? No, it just keeps on going. It keeps on going. It keeps on going. It keeps on going. I mean, it sets you down so gently. It sets you down so slow. And it handles it like a freaking champ. So let's talk about the swoops. All right, everybody likes to swoop as they start to get more and more and more experience. Let's talk about handling. There are two things that you want to think about / consider when you're discussing paramotor handling. Number one is how easy and how much effort it takes to do the maneuvers. And number two is how much energy the wing carries throughout the maneuvers. Saying that the Ozone Freeride 2 is effortless to do every dang thing out there is a complete understatement. It is completely effortless. It is so dang effortless that if you just think about doing a loop, if you just think about doing a wing over, you can freaking do a loop, you can freaking do a wing over. It is so stupid easy. It rolls so hard, so fast. It's not even funny. Now let's talk about where the Ozone Freeride 2 really shines, and that is how it carries energy. It's stupid how well it carries energy. It carries energy so freaking well. One of my favorite things to do with the Ozone Freeride 2 is to put it into a flat turn. Bring the wingtip down, turning a 180-degree turn, and just hammer both brakes. It pulls wing over or barrel roll G-forces just in a flat turn with brakes. Diving back and forth, hitting brakes is probably one of the most insane feelings I've ever felt on any wing ever. It's literally addicting. All I do is want to dive back and forth hitting the brakes because it's like you're just pulling up on the yoke in an airplane and just feeling the G-forces shove you down into that seat. That's what it feels like going around a turn. I mean, you just pitch it down, hit those brakes, and it's like, just pushes your face and body down into that seat really freaking hard. It also carries energy better than any wing that I have ever flown, and I come off of a Viper 5, which is notoriously known for being really good at carrying energy. I have never flown a wing that will take me higher on wingovers. This wing is power loop / rocket loop capable. People have taken it completely over top. I have not personally done it. I have gotten very close, or at least to me what felt very close, and I have thrown it around really hard. It just carries energy so freaking well. It honestly took my wing over game to another level because it just had the capabilities of taking me farther than any other wing that I previously flown, including the Viper 5, which I just came off of. I flew a Viper 5 for probably 60 hours right before I got this Freeride 2. I love this thing. It is absolutely unreal how well it handles. I mean, we had expected it to handle this well. It's a 16 meter. It was a small wing. And it's a slalom racing wing. Alex Mateos won the slalom racing championship recently on the 14 Freeride 2. And I think the reason why and where it shines again the most is how much energy it can carry and how hard it can freaking turn in a flat turn with brakes. It's just ridiculous, especially if you dump speed bar. I mean, if you hammer full speed bar, dump it, and then hit brakes, you pretty much go over top. I mean, you could do a loop right off of a speed bar dump. You just hammer brakes or hammer speed bar, full throttle, dump speed bar, flick right brake or left brake, and you basically barrel loop over. I have to say, in terms of handling, in terms of maneuverability, in terms of energy, I don't think anything is beaten the Freeride 2. I don't think anything out there carries energy better than the Freeride 2 does. The Viper 5 was freaking awesome. Loved every minute on that Viper 5. Would happily own another Viper 5. But this Freeride 2 is just another freaking beast. Let's talk about efficiency. There are three main things that you need to consider when you're talking about efficiency. Number one is your cruising RPMs. Number two is your climb rate. And number three is your glide slope. The Ozone Freeride 2 is one of the most efficient wings that I have flown to date for paramotoring. Paragliding and paramotoring efficiency are two separate things. I can have a conversation about that in another video, but let's talk about the Freeride 2. In terms of cruising RPMs on the Freeride 2, I am cruising at 113 kg all the way up on a 16 meter at 2000 MSL. I am cruising at 55 to 5600 RPMs, which is extremely freaking low. And that was at trims neutral. That wasn't even trims down. So there's more room for me to go to drop those RPMs even lower. To give perspective, on my Viper 5 18 meters, so 2 meters larger than the Freeride 2 that I'm currently flying, I was cruising at about 5,600 RPMs. So on the 16 meter Freeride 2, I am cruising at the same RPMs as the Viper 5. That is ridiculous. The cruising RPMs, which determines your efficiency when it comes to a paramotor, because it's about how much gas you burn and how much time you flew. And this wing is stupid efficient when it comes to cruising RPMs. I can imagine if I got on something more like a 17, which would be maybe better suited for my weight and more of a fair comparison between that and the Viper 5 18 that I flew, my cruising RPMs would be even lower. I mean, this wing is just blisteringly efficient. It's crazy efficient. It is extremely addicting because I love having an efficient wing. Every time I fly a wing that's not very efficient, it gives me more appreciation for something that is, because I am a major range anxiety kind of guy. I hate questioning if I'm going to have enough fuel. I hate wondering if I'm going to have enough fuel. I hate running out of gas. So having a wing that I know is just stupid efficient to take in all of the places that can take me everywhere and not burn all the gas doing it, and also do it on a 16 meter, is stupid. It's freaking awesome. I freaking love it. Now let's talk about the second piece, and that is your climb rate. I feel I am climbing just as well on my 16 meter as I was on my 18 meter Viper 5. I do not feel like anybody out on the field, anybody out at the fly-in that I recently went to, was out climbing me. I'm flying a 140 prop on a Moster 287 reduction, and it seems to me that nobody is out climbing me. I'm not out climbing everybody else, but like nobody is just running away from me, even though I'm on a 16 at the same altitude. So like Judson and I, who is probably 40 pounds lighter than me, he's on a 16, I'm on a 16, and we're pretty much matched for climb rate. Yeah, it freaking rips, dude. This wing is efficient as they come. Now, glide slope. Again, I don't really have any hard data as far as what the true glide slope is, what the true climb rate is, any of that stuff. So take that for what that is. It is just an opinion in this case. But the glide slope to me seems to be one of the best that I've ever experienced. I flew the Warp 1 for a while, and the Warp 1 had like insane glide slope. And this feels to me very, very, very similar to how that Warp 1 felt. The Freeride 2 16 feels like it has a little bit of a better glide than my 18 Viper 5 did, which is crazy. It just feels like it just goes and 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 goes. Funny enough, I was practicing my motor off approaches, and I kept overshooting my LZ because it just went so much farther than I was used to. It just carries that energy. It carries you farther than ever. So I have found this Freeride 2 to not only be very efficient, both glide slope and cruising RPMs, but it also has a really, really good climb. All right, guys, let's talk about speed. The Ozone Freeride 2 in my tests, which were at 113 kg all the way up, 2,000 MSL, was 53 miles an hour, and I had 4 inches of speed bar left. Yes, this wing is ridiculously freaking fast. I think I'm cruising at about 33-ish miles an hour trimmed neutral. I haven't tested my cruising speed trimmed all the way down or trimmed all the way out because the trim range is only a whopping 4 or 5 inches, but I did push speed bar. And as far as I can push speed bar before I start sinking is roughly 53 miles an hour. I am going to go out and test this again. I am going to do it several more times. But on the night that I was doing it, you can see me going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, testing over and over and over and over and over again. And I was averaging 53 miles an hour with 4 inches of speed bar left. The only reason that I could not get all the way through the speed bar is because I was sinking all the way in the speed bar. So if I pushed the full bar, I was not able to maintain altitude. The times that I did push bar with a little bit of altitude, I was maybe cruising around 56 miles an hour. I can't say that for sure. None of these numbers are absolute concrete, but that is roughly what it is that I was getting. So to say that this wing is fast is a complete understatement. This wing is absolutely balls to the wall, insanely freaking fast. Let's talk about the Freeride 2 in Turbulence. I have to say, this is where it really, really impressed me. I flew it through some really nasty wind shear, through some rotor, and it is freaking rock solid. To give a little perspective, the previous wing that I had been flying was a Viper 5, and I felt like the Viper 5 handled it great, don't get me wrong, but it liked to dance, it liked to talk, it liked to move a lot more. I think they turned the reflex profile up on this Freeride 2 because it's a lot more rock solid. It doesn't move nearly as much. It doesn't feel the bumps nearly as much. It soaks them up a little bit more. The way that I want to describe it in comparison between, the Viper 5, which is the previous model that I've been flying, is that it feels like, you get in a Baja truck and drive down a dirt road and it just soaks everything up compared to driving down a dirt road in a pickup truck with really stiff suspension. The Freeride 2 almost feels like it just chops up, eats up, and just takes in all the turbulence more so than previous wings that I have been flying. I love it. It's a lot more rock solid. It's a lot more stable, you could say, as it goes through the turbulence. And I also feel really, really confident. I have watched an Ozone Freeride 2 collapse, and it was really impressive. It was really, really, really impressive. Now having pushed the Ozone 2 through turbulence, through rotor, through wake, through all of the things, I feel extremely, extremely rock solid on this wing. No matter the situation, no matter the environment, no matter where I am, I feel very confident on it. The reflex profile had to have been turned up because it's a lot more rock solid, and it soaks up those bumps more than any of the previous Ozone wings that I have been flying. Let's talk about oscillation. Ozones are notoriously known for oscillating regularly. It's called ozone oscillation. I have to say that they did something to the Freeride 2 to basically cancel out that oscillation. It's not entirely gone. It still oscillates. It still rocks back and forth, but it is nowhere near the oscillation that the Freeride 1 or even the Viper 5 had. Those wings oscillated. The Freeride 2 does not. You can actually put it in a direction and it will basically stay going that way. Yes, it will still oscillate a little bit, but nowhere near like previous Freeride 1 or even the Viper 5 or Sirocco 3 or any of those wings. Those oscillate more than the Freeride 2 does. I don't know what they changed. I don't know how they tweaked that, but there isn't anywhere near the oscillation in the Freeride 2. Okay, real quick, let's talk about the risers. Let's talk about the brake toggles. Let's talk about the lines, because there's been some controversy. There's been some ups, some downs. There's pros, there's cons. Ozone did change things with their new riser system, and they did change their brakes. Their magnets are now that super fancy schmancy. Don't come off if you pull out, only come off if you pull down, but you can put them straight on. Let me tell you, those suck. I really do not enjoy those. I find myself searching and scrambling and trying to get it onto the magnet for upwards of like 5-10 seconds. It's just a pain in the butt. Yeah, it looks nice. Yeah, it works great once it's on the magnet, but it's a pain in the butt to try and get it onto the magnet. So the magnet itself really is not a very pleasurable system. The toggle is much improved over the previous toggle. My old Viper 5 had the old yellow Ozone toggles. The new toggles are so much more comfortable to hold. I also think they reduced the overall size of the toggle. I could be mistaken on that, but I think the current toggle, or in my opinion, the current toggle is much better than the previous toggle that they had been running on Ozone wings. Now, the thing with the risers that I like and dislike is that the trim is only like 5 inches long. It is not a long trim range, and that is really nice in the sense that they put all of the speed in the speed bar, so you can completely control how fast you want to go with the PK system on the speed bar. Press the bar, you've got all the speed let off the bar, you know, as slow as you can go. That's great, but you also don't have trim. So if you ever want to just cruise, you want to go somewhere faster, you can't trim out and just fly in a faster, fly faster in a straight line. You can't really do that. So there's pros and cons to it. Yes, you get all the speed, you get all the performance, you get all the beans, the whole enchilada, but you don't have any trim for when you just want to cruise. So there's pros, there's cons to that. The overall riser fit and finish, I think, is better than their previous models. I just think it's cleaner. I think it's better made. I think the material they use is nicer. It looks really good. It feels really good. I love it. I don't love the magnets. Love the toggles. Hit or miss on my opinion with the trim. Now, the lines, it comes in 2 different versions. You have comp version, you have standard version. The comp version is just a more, you could say, advanced, more slalom, more performance-focused PK system. It's a longer speed bar, whatever, yada, yada, yada. The standard is just a little bit more of the user-friendly kind of riser. Lines you can get sheathed or unsheathed. I chose to get the unsheathed lines because I like unsheathed lines. They are less drag, they're a little bit more performance, a little bit more efficient, all of those little things. I have not had any issues with stress tangles. I have not had any issues with them getting all clunked together or stuck together. I like them. They are going to wear out faster than the sheathed lines are, but that's a compromise that I chose to make. Okay, let's talk about the things that I did not like about the Freeride 2. This is a pretty short list, and I had to think about it quite a bit. There's only one real thing that, or there's only one or two real things that in my mind stand out as something that I quote unquote don't like. And it's not a Freeride 2 specific thing. And that is how heavy the brake range is. The brakes on the Freeride 2 to actually pull the brakes when you're at trims neutral is heavy. It is heavy. It can wear you out quickly. If you're ripping, cranking, spanking, and banking, those brakes will wear you out. Now, that is not a Freeride 2 specific thing. The Viper 5 did that. The Sirocco 3 was the same way. Most of these, high pressure reflex profile wings are going to have a heavier brake range. Paragliding wings typically have a lighter brake range, and I've been paragliding a lot, which is why I noticed that. If you don't ever go paragliding, if you don't ever fly a wing with light brake range, you don't ever really notice that it has a heavier brake range. But it does do that. So I do find myself getting tired if I'm ripping around really hard for more than maybe 20, 30 minutes, which I rarely ever do, but it is a thing that I did notice. Now, the next thing that I'll point out that I didn't love is how hard it shoots above your head. That I found not to be an issue because I know it's going to happen, but anytime I handed the wing over to somebody else, they were not prepared for that and it overflew them. It just wants to fly, man. It wants to fly so freaking bad that if you run just a little bit too hard or lift on those A's too hard, which we're all used to doing because you think you got to run really, really hard to get it up, but not with this wing. So when you do that, it rockets above you really, really hard. And unless you check that surge hard, it will overfly you. So it does have the tendency to want to shoot up above you really fast. That's the only other thing that I kind of noticed about the Freeride 2. Heavy brake range wants to overshoot you. Other than that, there wasn't a lot. This wing is really going to be that really awesome all-arounder for the experienced advanced pilot. This is not going to be the wing that a new guy or even an intermediate guy is going to fly. It's just not safe in that way. But for the guys who have been flying, for the guys with a couple 300 hours plus, who know how to handle a wing, who know how to handle energy, who know how to control a paraglider in different environments, situations, all of those things, this is going to be probably the best all-arounder you're going to get. It is efficient, it is fast, it is fun, it is agile, it does all of the things that you're going to want, and I don't really see a reason why I would want to fly anything else. It is that cream of the crop, best I have found all-arounder wing. Now, yes, there are going to be wings that might go faster, straighter, and more efficiently for cross-country. There are going to be wings that might do this, that, and the other thing better than this. But I have found this Freeride 2 to be just that really, really, really fun all-around wing. So if you're the guy who's been flying for 3 years, 5 years, you've got experience, you've got a couple 100 hours under your belt, you know how to handle a wing. That's not just a couple 100 hours of you cruising up and down on a beach. That is you ripping it around. That is you pushing those limits. That is you finding the boundary. This is going to be a really, really, really awesome wing. If you think you're going to like the Freeride 2, you're definitely going to like the Freeride 2. If you've liked the Freeride 1, you're really going to like the Freeride 2. It is just everything that was so awesome about the Freeride 1 and better. They took the things that they learned with the Freeride 1, they tweaked it, they improved it, and now we have the Freeride 2. And every person that I have let fly it has wanted to buy one and has bought one, including myself. I sold my Viper 5 and I bought a Freeride 2 as soon as I tasted it. In fact, I had even bought one before I tried it. And then after I tried it, I was glad I did. It's a super, super, super awesome freaking wing.